Hey everybody, we are back. All right, so we're talking about ways to reduce expenses, right? And of all the things you can do, one really good thing to do would be reduce interest expense. Now, I also understand why it's there, but I'm here to tell you today that I think after you hear this, you will view it in a different way and may decide to get out of it. Okay, well let me tell you about it. Okay, first we'll talk about what debt is supposed to be for. Debt on which you pay interest, right? So there's a cost for that money. We call that interest. It's for you to buy things that you can't afford, but that will make money. So it's investment. So borrowing money is supposed to be a good thing because it helps you produce more in the future, okay? And that's on the business side. And also just for cash flow, if you have a seasonal business, there are reasons for that you might have a line of credit, okay? That's responsible use of debt. At home, try not to get in any debt at all, except for, of course, there are things like houses and cars too. The one could plan to save up for cars, but that's legitimate. But a house is something that you can't practically save up for. You need a house long before in fact, you'll never save it up if you wait for the day you save it up. So that's responsible use of debt. You get a mortgage on a house. Otherwise, don't. I'm not saying don't use a credit card at the grocery store, but pay the credit card off every month. And here's why. All right, now I am aware that the figures I'm about to give you are a few years old. They were pretty good figures about 4 years ago. But, with the COVID thing, I understand now household debt is less than it used to be. Okay, and I don't know why that is, because I hear about people going out of business and not having jobs. And anyway, but anyhow, these figures, just take them for illustrative, all right? They were good figures a few years ago, and they'll make my point today. Okay, so let's say that the average household carries $15,000 debt. That was true a few years ago. It's kind of like 20% on credit card debt, so it's sort of like $3,000 a year that you're going to pay on that. All right, now is $3,000 a year worth it or not? Well, I don't know. We're going to figure that out. But credit card debt is one place to carry debt on the personal side. On the business side, debt looks like everything from credit card debt to, borrowing money at better rates, I hope, to your suppliers. Let's say you have a supplier and his terms are 20 days. All right, well, I have known guys that told me, you want to do business with me? I don't pay anybody in less than 60 days. Well, some of those guys I did business with too, but you know what? Their explanation for that showed that they don't really understand. And let's just find out if you understand. They would say to me, it's good for my cash flow. Okay, well, it's good for your cash flow for, let's say, about an extra 40 days. That's when it's good for your cash flow. When you stretch out suppliers, you get the pop one time. Right? You get 40 days extra cash flow one time. After that, you are paying, assuming, let's say you bought exactly the same amount every month, a constant amount. You're paying just for the goods you bought 2 months ago instead of the goods you bought today. You're paying as you go. You are. That's the cash flow on it. But what you do manage to do, you can get yourself a bad name. If you become the guy that it's like, well, yeah, he spends a pile of money with me, but never ever pays on time. And, that goes varying different ways. I've had guys that, great friends of mine that, couldn't pay on time, just stayed behind the 8 ball. And, they were friends of mine, so they get plenty of grace. But other guys weren't as good friend of mine, and I just didn't like them, okay? I just judge them on the fact that So you can buy yourself a bad name by stretching out suppliers, and it doesn't improve your cash flow after that one time of 40 days. or whatever the amount is. So forget about that concept. All right, let's go back to this $15,000 average household debt that people carry, which I think is probably some kind of illustrative figure even now. All right, so you spend $3,000 a month on interest. What does it take to have $3,000 a year? $3,000 a year. It takes, assuming that your taxes are about a third. All right, so that gives you 22% at federal and 8% at the state. It's kind of like 30, and then you got Obamacare. So kind of like a third, and that's kind of common for the average guy a lot of places. If you're making more money than that, the taxes are even worse, okay? So, but using this third, that means to have, to blow off $3,000, you need to make $4,500, right? 1/3 of that is going to go, all right? And for you to have $4,500, you need to 1/3 in taxes, right? You get that. It was $1,500, and then the other $3,000 went to debt. That's where that $4,500 went, okay? You need to produce remember, we had a business that's theoretically got a 30% margin, and I'm going to use that consistently, just ease the figures, okay? You'd need to produce $150,000, or rather, $15,000 to come up with just $3,000 in interest. All right, and over 10 years, that's $150,000. So, I know plenty of guys in small business, making a living for themselves and their family. They're producing kind of like $150,000 a year. A whole year blown off for nothing. It didn't increase your cash flow. Might have bought you a bad name if you're doing it to suppliers. You blew off $30,000 for nothing. So let me encourage you to go ahead and get out of debt. It takes you about as long to get out as it took you to get in, all right? Just tighten the belt for a little while, and pretty soon you'll be on even, and just keep that same cash flow rolling, except for your current, and not spending it. It's $3,000 extra for you after taxes, okay? So I want to encourage you, you really can do this. I know that you can do this, and it is worth your doing, all righty? Take care. Hey friends, I hope this was useful to you. Would you do something for me? Would you please share this with anybody you know that ought to hear it too? And then, would you please give me the thumbs up and subscribe, right? That's kind of important on these things. Feel free to leave comments. All right, thanks a lot. And now get out there and do some winning.